Welcome, Patriots! We have an incredible episode of Ravens Radar on tap for you today. We are getting to the gritty. We're going to follow the money today. If it's in your sights, it's on my radar. We'll be airborne shortly. Welcome, Patriots! We are so glad to have you on this episode of Ravens Radar. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world. Isn't there always something going on? The one thing I have to give Joe Biden is he definitely keeps our plates full in the newsroom. So let's get right to it. For most of us, we have been focused on what's been happening in East Palestine, Ohio. We had a train derail. 50-car train derailed in East Palestine on February 3rd, and it was carrying the who's who of toxic materials in it, one of which was vinyl chloride. So it derailed, and that's when the disaster occurred. You would think the disaster was the train derailing. The disaster has been Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg and everybody else in this woke administration who have done everything except deal with the problem. So we're going to break it down because, as far as we know from Joe Biden, this was his official response.
Because there's a more important thing going on. They're going to invest billions of dollars in a new enterprise. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but you're...
Yeah. Ridiculous. So that's what we have gotten used to at this point. So here's what the people need to know. They are questioning right now if the soil is safe, if the air is safe, if the water is safe. Why are we questioning that? Because obviously Joe Biden is nowhere to be found. He's off in Ukraine looking for ice cream or kids who like hairy legs. And we've got Regan, who's the head of the EPA, who is in Africa. So everybody trying to find their way as far away from this disaster as possible while the people of East Palestine are struggling and are exhibiting symptoms. Let me give you, just for perspective, Patriots, somebody in this woke administration decided that it would be a good idea to light on fire this vinyl chloride. So this derails. It doesn't explode when the train derails, but somebody got the brilliant idea of going, you know what? Let's do a controlled burn, air quotes for you guys at home, a controlled burn. So they burn this and it creates phosgene gas. No joke. For those who need the cliff notes on it, phosgene was a chemical war agent. It was used in World War I. It was so deadly, so toxic, so inhumane that they banned it from wars. When you have enemies saying, we can't do this, even if we're at war with you, it's too dangerous. But yet that's what happened. So Biden and his merry band of communists decided to burn this, sent fumes everywhere going. And now what do we have? We have 6,000 dead fish in the water. We have residue in the water reservoirs. We have people vomiting, having respiratory distress and getting sick. And we have no answers. So here's the timeline, Patriots. February 3rd, the train derails. February 5th, Governor DeWine finally gets around to making a comment about it. 12 days later, the EPA and Biden sound off on it, and none of them have been there to assess the damage. Can you guys imagine if we had a hurricane, if we had any kind of natural disaster and it was 12 days to get emergency aid to people? It's absolutely despicable. So right now, they're just in the back going, everything's fine. The water, it's safe. My suggestion, East Palestine, is keep making noise. Patriots, keep your eyes, your thoughts, your prayer, and your donations for East Palestine. These people need our help. They have seen the very worst that this government has to offer when we're in a situation where people who are not in the highest income bracket don't get justice in a timely fashion. I can't think of anything more un-American than that. So our prayers will be with there. We're hoping to make a trip out there soon and help the people of East Palestine who are struggling right now to rebuild their lives. And all of the patriots are there with you. We will drag Joe Biden from Ukraine. He seems to make it there a lot, which is kind of funny. And Regan from Africa, and anybody, and Pete Buttigieg will get him back from whatever chest-feeding adventure he's on to come do his job. You heard it here first. Also wanted to mention that in the news, we've got a lot of flying objects that have been coming around. So now we went from Biden not being able to act, we can't destroy a blade of grass, we can't risk an American cow by shooting down a Chinese spy balloon. It was over the ocean first, just for giggles. It was over the ocean. He could have shot it down over the Pacific. But in that vein, now they've gotten trigger happy. Now they're shooting down everything. Now they're touting and saying, wow, we've shot down 4 objects. We don't know what these objects are. We can guess. What would be the most likely target for Joe Biden to shoot down? We have some thoughts. Okay, assuming it's not one of those, I just want to make this comment to Biden and all the wokeists who are saying, well, now he's kind of kicked into gear and he's keeping us safe and he's shooting things down. Would he be shooting those with guns? Are those guns shooting these objects out of the sky, or is it a slingshot? Guns, again, for all the anti-guns. We seem to keep coming back to guns. Okay, we needed something to shoot it down. And it wasn't ice cream, it wasn't bubble gum, and it wasn't classified documents we needed to get it down. It was good old-fashioned military firepower. How's that for hypocrisy? Typical. But I want to get to today, we want to focus on something even more pertinent. There's a lot of movement in play right now. We have a lot of wheels in the fire right now with what's going on with this woke administration. The biggest one being a lot going on with the money. You guys have heard me speak about digital currency being tested out, which I am not a fan of. They can inflate currency, they can remove currency, they can devalue it, they can take it out, they can print more. It's been a disaster. This is kind of the cornerstone of the Biden administration of when in doubt, print more money. So, but we want to talk about for people who, the normal ones of us who have 401ks and investment, and we're planning to retire before we hit age 90. We need to figure out what we're going to do because there's some really deep stuff going on with the money. So I have brought in an incredible guest today. We are going to be talking with somebody about a term that you may not be familiar with yet, but you're going to need to get familiar with right away. E.S.G. What does that mean for you and your money? We're going to tell you coming up. Stay with us. I'm Raven Harrison, the conservative warrior, and I created Raven Pack because, like most of you, I am tired of sending my hard-earned money to nebulous GOP causes, which normally wind up in the hands of rhinos or people who are supporting a far-left or radical agenda. I'm taking a stand against a political party that is supposed to be fighting for you, but more often than not winds up fighting for the status quo and against your hard-earned values. Your contribution to Raven Pack will be used to support true conservatives and candidates and our movement and warriors like myself, people who not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. You deserve to know how and where your hard-earned money is being spent, and I'm going to show you in real time. Please use the link below and make your most generous contribution. Freedom is not free. Together, we can restore America and put the American people first. Integrity is making a comeback, and we thank you for your support. Thank you, and God bless America. Welcome back, Patriots. I told you it was going to be epic, didn't I? We are going there. Is your money woke? I know, that is the strangest question. Is your money woke? I want to tell you there are so many layers to the fascism and communist element that is coming to our country. You don't even want to know. But we've talked about 401ks. We've talked about our money. Now we're going to get one of our frontline fighters in here. I am very pleased to have in studio with us today the Jackson Paulishak from Anti-Woke Investing to kind of bring us through the madness. Welcome, Jackson.
Thank you so much, Raven.
Thanks for being here. So after that introduction, are you going to walk on water or anything before we start?
I'm confident that there will be no hydrodynamics going on.
Fantastic. Okay. I had to give people a teaser because there are certain terms. I mean, we've all heard the term woke, but with money, what the heck is woke money? You're going to talk to us a little bit about the term, but first, before we describe the whole disaster that is E.S.G, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I think the key reason that I kind of latched onto this, I have worked as a licensed financial professional, SEC securities firms, been with many big firms, and now it's called independent and have been for years. But I've done this professionally for 28 years, okay? So I have worked...
And that's investing?
Yeah, worked with individual investors. You know, I'm not at an institutional level. I'm working on the street with individual investors in my community, coming into my office, and basically it's let's make an assessment of where you're at. Let's identify where you want to get to, and let's chart the best path from point A to point B, maximum probability of success. That's overwhelmingly what I do and have done for 28 years.
And you were typically based in Maryland,
right.
Correct? Yeah. Which is so
all my life, save maybe a year, but yeah.
There it is. We're going to try to recruit him back here to Texas, Patriots. We need him because this is grassroots. So basically, it's grassroots investing now that you're taking on, and grassroots, so we're going to call him the grassroots guru. He is the one to save your money, because we heard a lot when inflation started climbing about people losing their 401k, and people who have been planning, who are trying to retire, and some lost as much as 40% in their 401k. So this is what is the scape of investing now from then to where we are right now, where we're getting ready to discuss ESG?
Well, of course, what I'm focused on with anti-woke investing doesn't really relate to market volatility, which is overwhelmingly what we ran into last year, where we had a good run for the markets for about 3 years, and then you had a bunch of variables going on at one time. Policies of the Biden administration, the hyperinflation. We could spend a lot of time on that.
Yes.
So. But
we were all there. True story.
But in terms of what I'm focused on, I mean, a little background in terms of what got me focused on the anti-woke investing path was, it was approximately April of last year. I actually can't remember whether I was reading something Stuart Varney with Fox Business wrote or saw him, but he was making commentary regarding a new policy being implemented by the Department of Labor. Now, that might not sound overly significant, that I'm talking about an agency of the U.S. government, but the Department of Labor regulates 401k plans, and most people aren't aware of that. They are the chief regulator of 401k plans. They were in the process, and are doing it right now as we speak as well, of putting in regulations that will require an asset manager running money inside of a 401k, i.e. the fund that your 401k is invested in your company's 401k. Require that asset manager to prioritize climate change risk and the evaluation of it above other financial criteria.
Okay, before you go, because that's a mouthful. You had me at kind of the Labor Department was working, but the
oxymoron.
This is I was going there. But that was a mouthful. What you're talking about, if I understand this, is we have these woke social justice policies
bureaucrats
about climate change working their way to where people who are managing your 401k have to prioritize these global initiatives. And Patriots, when I'm talking about global initiatives, I'm talking about Biden showing up to a climate summit with a 122 caravan of fossil fuel burning vehicles on a private, jet.
Nothing generates more carbon emissions than a private jet.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, and we're talking about now all these green where, we all have to have an electric car, but then it shuts down the grid. Okay. But so these are working their way into the, so now when I hire a 401k, when I hire someone to manage my 401k, my retirement, they have to prioritize what does that actually, because that's what it means. It is environmental, E.S.G is environmental, social
and governance.
Okay, so that is a 3-letter term that the left has created. But essentially what this does is basically says that there is a protocol that your 401k has to follow, and it's not making you the most money and making sure you can retire.
That's exactly right. When you place your money in a professionally managed investment, or another way to phrase that would be you hire a money manager, what you are looking for is them to maximize the probability that what they're going to do is going to succeed for you. You're going to achieve your financial goals, okay? And what I'm saying to you is that through policies that are being implemented by the Biden administration, through agencies of the U.S. government, okay, they are now looking to put in place, and it's going to go through, I'm supremely confident of this, regulations that will require an asset manager, a fund manager, to prioritize evaluating climate change risk within the portfolio above other financial criteria. I can tell you, as 28 years as a licensed financial professional, that will lead to underperformance. That will lead to poorer investment growth, poorer performance of an investment portfolio, and therefore, I'm going to keep pivoting back to this, okay? And therefore, people will have smaller nest eggs and less retirement lifestyle because of the prioritization of climate change and ESG within their 401k.
So if you were planning on retiring before you were 100, okay, but let's give them a real, because we were talking last night, a real example, and you gave me a great example of a company, and a lot of us have heard of the company called BlackRock, and I want you to tell our viewers and listeners, give me the example about the board members that were forced out, so that they see what this, because it's taking a few different ways. So one, they're giving legislation that says your 401k has to go by these woke social principles. And then second, what are they doing to try to manipulate these boards and these financial institutions to make this happen?
So that's the second pivot of all this. I just talked about government actions of the agencies of the U.S. government, okay? Then there's the other facet of E.S.G, which is the asset managers themselves. Keep in mind, the asset managers are the ones who control the voting of the shares of the stock. So when you invest in a fund with a BlackRock or a State Street, or I could go down the list of major U.S. asset managers, they are voting the shares of stock that they control on your behalf as an investor, okay? When we're talking about proxy. So what happened was a couple of years ago, ExxonMobil was in a situation where BlackRock and several other large asset managers, investment managers, got together and forced out 3 members of ExxonMobil's board.
Okay, their board of directors or governing body.
That's exactly right, okay? And replaced them with 3 new members that these woke asset managers wanted, who were on board with their climate change agenda, okay? The net result of this is that Exxon was forced to sell a large undeveloped oil field in the South Pacific, very, very large, because the opinion of these new board members was, you don't need more production. You've got plenty of production.
And the punchline is, so they force these board members out.
Yep.
Okay. They force the ones that the social commies in. Okay. And then say, okay, we're voting to liquidate or get rid of some of these assets. You don't need all these oil fields. You have too much money. Okay. And those oil fields that ExxonMobil was forced to let go of were bought by who?
PetroChina.
Everybody paying attention now? Is everybody awoke? Okay, this is what we're talking about here.
Right.
This is good old-fashioned, corrupt, dirty business, guys. What have we been talking about? China and what they're doing. So we get the social justice warriors on the board. They force a vote based on climate change. Okay, and then they force them to sell to a Chinese interest.
Right.
And this has happened with companies like Disney and others where they're forcing these people onto the board of directors so they can manipulate. I mean, that's a lot of manipulation, isn't it?
These big asset managers, BlackRock, State Street, down the list, okay, are generally all members of global climate change organizations. There's three big ones. There's the Net Zero Asset Managers Initiative, or NAZAM, okay? The UN's group is called Principles for Responsible Investing, okay? And then the last one is called, I believe it's called Climate 100 Plus, okay? It's very large, but it's more international, okay? When you're an asset manager and you join these global, climate change organizations, you are committing yourself to apply pressure to the companies that you own and control stock in on behalf of your investors and shareholders, to pressure them to adopt reductions in carbon initiatives, get on a net zero carbon emission path by 2030 or 35. You're pressuring them to engage in business activities that are bad for their business, is what it comes down to.
And basically, a lot of people don't even realize when you think of you're investing in your 401k, you think of something that's automatically taken out of your paycheck for your retirement. You don't think about voting and proxies and social governance.
No, I think we generally assume as individual investors, and with the laws that are in place in the U.S., that when we place our money with an asset manager to again, which is what's known as a fiduciary, they're legally obligated. They're supposed to be legally obligated to put our interests first, okay?
Yes.
When we place our money with them, that they are going to do everything within their power to maximize our return, okay?
Yes.
To give us, to put us in a position where we have the best possible retirement lifestyle and nest egg.
Correct.
And these asset managers, okay, in a wave of wokeness, okay, are prioritizing climate change over absolute returns. I could go on a slightly different tangent here. Did you?
No,
want to
I was going to say that means that their allegiance is they're not fulfilling by nature their fiduciary responsibility, because you're already by some other governance. And that's why Patriots, and you can agree, Jackson, is we don't have any really great three-letter agencies. Oh my gosh, are you guys over it with the three letters? E.S.G, LOL, IDK, FJB,
we haven't even gotten to the
because
SEC
he's trying
yet.
to CYA. Just can't with these. Yeah. I can't with these people. Yeah. But the most important, these are all important. Right. How do people know if, we can almost assume it is because there's legislation going forward. How do they know if this is yours? How do I look at my 401k or my investment portfolio and see if my investors have adopted this woke platform?
And the answer is it's a lot harder than you think, okay? This is not as simple as, I don't own any ESG investments, therefore I'm okay, okay? It's not that simple. Invesco, again, is the fourth largest U.S. asset manager, okay? They were quoted in the Wall Street Journal last fall, someone who works for Invesco, in ESG is baked into everything we do. So just because you're not in an ESG investment doesn't mean your money isn't being managed with an emphasis on climate change and social change, et cetera, and therefore your interests are not being put forth. The most irritating part to me as a financial professional for 28 years is the representations by the left, okay, that you are actually going to get your cake and eat it too with ESG and with this climate change investing. You're going to earn every bit as much money long term, okay, while you are saving the planet. Who wouldn't want that?
Well, exactly.
I'm just telling you, it's a complete fallacy.
And see, that's what I want people to hear. Yeah. We're talking about facts, okay, but this is where Biden goes, send in the unicorns. Okay, so what we want to do is just to tell people, so in dollars and cents term, you gave me a great example when we were talking previously about 1.2 something.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners and our viewers and our investor what that actually, because you're thinking, okay, well, I'm trying to recycle and do my best to just contribute to the planet, but that's not what this is.
What's the cost?
Your windmills can't be recycled. The blades can't be recycled, and they can't generate enough and they run on dirty fossil fuels. Spoiler alert. So tell them what the numbers, the dollars were on what they say you're getting.
Okay, so I can point to multiple studies, if you will, that have made some sort of an evaluation that have tried to quantify how much are you giving up in returns with ESG investing. Probably the one I'll cite right now to not overload again your listeners is the Harvard Business Review last year. Put out a study that basically said that ESG investing costs investors 1.54% per year. Okay. Now, at first blush,
that sounds low.
That's exactly where I was going.
Okay.
If you're not a professional investor, at first blush, that doesn't sound like very much. You're thinking in terms of CD with $10,000 in it. What's the again? It's a it's a 15 or I guess $150 difference or something like that. Okay. When you're talking about long-term investments and retirement portfolios, a difference of, we'll just round it down to 1.5% per year, is a massive long-term distance. To give you
how much in terms of dollars?
If you had $250,000, and you earned 1.5% less over 15 years, the difference is approximately $160,000.
160.
$160,000. Okay.
That's what you're losing
Your
by
nest egg
saving.
will be that much smaller, and you will have that much less retirement lifestyle. Yep.
Woo! They kind of left that in the fine print. So when you guys are wondering what else the heck is in this infrastructure bill, okay, you want to know what's in that omnistrosity? This is the kind of stuff we're talking about. This is the fascist communist takeover, patriots. But thank God we have people and there aren't very many, we found you because people aren't talking about ESG. A lot of people don't even know what this is.
This is it's really complicated, and we could go in a bunch of different directions here. But if I think about most a significant percentage of financial professionals like me are employed by big brokerage firms and big banks. They're employees of it, which have signed on to these global climate change agendas. So there's no way they will allow their advisors to talk about what I'm talking about.
And that's why we're going to talk about it. Yeah. So this is grassroots, patriot. We have somebody who's not in the establishment, who's not of the establishment, and not by the establishment. So what we have to do is we have to support our conservatives and protect our money for people who are going to be dreadfully surprised when their retirement comes around that this is what the government's doing. This should piss you off, patriots, it's coming at us they're in the bank messing with the currency. They're messing with your retirements. It's print, spend. And then we have a disaster in East Palestine and it's crickets and Biden trying to figure out where the hell he is. So that's where we are. So tell our listeners and our viewers, you have a company, antiwokeinvesting.com.
Right.
And, but you will take them through this. You will guide them through the market of protecting their investments, their retirements, and their money.
I think the key thing I'm focused on for people is when I first got into this profession 28 years ago, the precursor to ESG investments were socially conscious, socially responsible investments. They largely went away because they performed so poorly. Nobody should believe that this is going to be any different in any way, shape, or form. So my goal is to make sure people invest in great companies to maximize their probability of financial success. I don't deal in a world of guarantees.
Correct.
I'm trying to maximize the probability of success by making sure we invest in great companies. I'm not interested in boycotts,
Yes.
We want to make sure we own the best companies, But I'm more troubled by these asset managers and the way they're handling this.
Correct.
Personally, I'm more troubled by it.
And this is what we need, patriots. So we have, Jackson is out here doing the work. He's protecting our investments and our money. So we're going to get behind him. So tell people how they can reach out and contact you and get involved.
So our website is antiwokeinvesting.com. That's just all together, no complications in there, We've developed a list of the 10 most important things you can do,
Great.
to keep your money from being woke, It's not easy. It's not easy. Not that long ago, I was looking through lists of the 50 largest asset managers. I'm going to tell you straight up, virtually every one of them is a signer onto one of these, at least one of these global climate change organizations. The pandering to the left, by Wall Street is really unbelievable.
Well, it is, and that's why I'm encouraging patriots, go to antiwokeinvesting.com. Go there today. Tell them the Raven sent you.
Right, that's right.
Jackson's going to look out, because we have to look out for each other. If people like Jackson are brave enough to bring you this information and protect you, we need to listen. Everybody report to this line. Nobody wins the war from the back seat, everybody. So report to this line. And we are going to have information on our site. Stick to brands and conservatives and you can vet, like Ravens Radar. Had a shameless plug. I'll see myself out. So we will be continuing to tackle this. If anybody wants more information on what Jackson is doing out there with antiwokeinvesting.com, we will have that information on Ravens Radar on our podcast page for you to look up. Jackson, I am so grateful. Thank you for being with us today and tackling the hard issues. Thank you for helping
me get this out, because this is a complex topic.
It
it's
is.
Just I wish I could spit it out in 3 minutes flat. There's so many facets to this. It's so deep.
And that means we have to have him on again. So challenge accepted. We're going to do that. And we're going to wrap up with what's the future and what's going forward with Ravens Radar. Stay tuned. Thank you, Patriots, for joining us on this episode of Ravens Radar. I'm telling you, it's as much as it's disparaging to kind of hear how deep the rabbit hole goes in the swamp, it's good for us to have the information. Information is power. We can do this. We will do this. And so grateful to my guest, Jackson Paulishak, and antiwokeinvesting.com. Patriots, get involved. In the meantime, we're almost tea time for the release of Raven's Mantle. This book is going to knock it out of the park, guys. We're going through the Cold War. We're going through how communists crept onto our shores, being at the Vegas massacre, and having my daughter kicked out of elementary school at age 8 for voting for President Trump. I'm going to discuss how we're fighting the betrayal of America and what our next steps are. Until then, I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Ravens Radar. Take care.